Hello viewers, this is Wolf here. Welcome to Wolf's Haven and to another Monster Hunter figure review. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Capcom figure builder creators model, Alatreon. It's finally here. This statue just released a few days ago, and I am hyped because Alatreon is easily my favorite black dragon in the entire series. I like him way more than Fatalis and Dire Moralis, and he's just one of my favorite monsters in the entire series in general. There's just so many cool things about Alatreon. I love the fight, love the music, and love his design, and I've been waiting for an Alatreon statue, a large-scale one like this, to release since forever, and I'm just glad it's finally here. And what a way for Capcom to celebrate their 20th anniversary. There's definitely some weird stuff coming out throughout the year, but they're starting it off pretty damn strong with this Alatreon statue. So let's just take a look at the box real quick. So the one thing that I definitely do like here is how they've designed it very similarly to how they did the Fatalis box when they were celebrating their 15th anniversary. So very different from their usual creators model boxes. A really cool shot of Alatreon here with these flames in the background and these characters right here on the side. If we scan over to one of the sides here, we have this really cool looking angle of Alatreon here with the flames in the background, looking really cool. And then this side here, we have like a cool little close-up of Alatreon's face, again with more flames permeating the background there. If we take a look to the box, it's going to be your standard fare with a bunch of angles on the back showing the statue in full here as well. And then, of course, on the very top of the box, it's going to be the 20th anniversary that we're going to be celebrating here. So, without any further ado, I'm going to take this statue out of the box, take a look at it, and give you guys my impressions of it. So, let's jump into this. Alright, wow. This Alatreon looks incredible. I might be a little bit biased, but I honestly like this statue a lot more than that Fatalis they released a little bit ago. I personally think that they did an amazing job recreating Alatreon here in statue form, especially with how they've conveyed the variety of colors all throughout the statue. It kind of makes me feel like comparing Alatreon and Fatalis, like when I did that Fatalis video and I mentioned that Fatalis has a very particular ancient, like traditional dragon aesthetic, but when you compare the two and you see the progression between the two, you can definitely see that they got a lot more creative with Alatreon, not just from the chaotic nature of its abilities, but also from its physical characteristics. Certain things, like those massive sky piercers on the top of its head, making Alatreon look as if he has a massive pompadour, like things like that I just think are so cool, but also for the fact that they were able to retain that dark, menacing aesthetic that black dragons are known for, while also throwing in a bunch of unique colors to really make Alatreon look unique and make him pop compared to the other monsters in the series. It's one of the things where I feel that Alatreon, the design here, really represents why Monster Hunter designs are so cool, and yeah, they did a really good job with it here. So just taking a look at the statue here, you can just see that these colors are done really well. If we look at the main body, you can see that Alatreon is just completely covered in this very dark obsidian here. There's a bit of a gloss on a lot of these scales throughout the body here, especially on the main section of the body here, just below the neck. Which looks really nice. You do get a little bit of a sheen throughout a lot of these very dark scales here. And then if you take a look to the neck, again, this is what I was talking about, where Alatreon has a lot of these very unique contrasting colors. So you can see that those dark scales, as we get to the midsection of the neck here, we kind of transition from these blacks to these very bright purples into this turquoise color here directly down the center of the neck, going all the way up to the chin, which looks really cool as well. If we take a look at Alatreon's head, you can just see exactly what I was talking about, where we have these massive horns that just jut up into the air. These horns are called sky piercers, right? So these things just look really cool, but you can kind of see from the side, it kind of makes Alatreon look as if he has a bit of a pompadour, which is Pretty cool looking design, very unique for sure for a dragon. The colors here look great because we have a lot more of these contrasting colors from these blacks to these like faint purples and turquoise colors here, lining the mouth. The mouth doesn't really have too much detail here. The whites of the teeth are just kind of very flat, simple white here. You can barely make out the tongue. The tongue does have a bit of color in there, a bit of a dark blue, but there's not really too much detail going on in there. The nose does look very nicely textured in here. You can see the grooves of the nostril in there. You can definitely make out the eye from quite far away because it does have some contrasting colors against the blacks, where we have kind of a dark orange sclera and kind of a blue iris here, which does look pretty cool. And then of course the ear has a very distinct and defined turquoise color right there as well, setting it apart from a lot of that obsidian around the rest of the body, which I think looks really great. We also have this unique design here too, if we kind of look towards like the underbody, where we have these upward facing spikes that have this very cool like bony color here, which has a bit of a transition. It does transition from those dark colors all the way into these whites, but it's just kind of cool how we see these like curving up straight up like that. It looks really cool, almost like forming chest armor there. If we take a look at Alatreon's legs, of course it's just going to become completely littered with a lot of these black scales. We have a lot of these spikes kind of sticking upwards and then lining the upper section of the leg here, looking really good. The undersection of Alatreon does carry more of those color transitions, a lot of these turquoise colors directly lining the underbody, which looks great. Of course, the claws don't look too bad either. We have more of those kind of bony colors, but there is some contrasting blacks on them as well. And then just taking a look at Alatreon's wings, I do really like this because there's just a variety of colors here which really make these wings pop. So you can see right here at the beginning of the wings, we have these black colors here on these scales, but then of course going on to the membranous wing, we of course have a transition from these purples into these blue colors out into this turquoise, which then finally ends into kind of a brownish color here at the very end of the wingtips here, which looks really cool. I do like how these veins are very distinct, where we have these these turquoise colored veins here all throughout the membranous wing, and then we also have these little holes in the wing here to really make Alatreon look very gritty here, which I think is really cool. Some cool looking scales here, or not scales, but spikes that line the top of the wings here. And then if we take a look to the back of Alatreon, of course we're going to have a lot of these scales kind of lining the entire back of the body here, but also these spikes. And the thing that I like is how these spikes are actually separated by the two sky piercers up here. So you can see we have like two lines of spikes kind of coming down, and then they kind of meet into a singular spike formation going all the way down the back of the body here, which is pretty cool. Some of those spikes on the back of the neck do have some membranous skin connecting the two. It's a very tiny detail, it's very easy to miss, but I do think that that is kind of a cool small detail there as well. But yeah, the wings do look great on the back. And the other thing that I think is cool is that, yeah, Alatreon's tail is incredibly thick looking right here. You can just see that it's like its widest point is right about here. And one thing that I find is very unique about how they've designed this Alatreon is that all of the scales here are just very consistent and very uniform all throughout the body. On some of these monsters, especially with Fatalis, you'll notice that there's a lot of like imperfections and a lot of damaged scales and whatnot. There's not so much consistency, but here you can just see just a consistent pattern going all the way down the length of the tail, which does look very eye-catching, I feel. So I definitely do like that. And we of course have more of this membranous skin on these huge spikes here on the top of the tail here, which looks really cool. They do stand out quite a bit from that obsidian on the majority of the tail, but we have more of these very defined veins here on the membranous wing with a lot more of those color transitions there as well. The tail does end at a point here with these very well-defined spikes. Very nicely textured as well, since these spikes do have some nice grooves on them as well. So that's cool. So I think overall this does look really good. Like the color, the paint job that they did on this does look really good. I think they did a really good job with the paint for sure. So the other thing I want to talk about is of course the base. So of course we have Alatreon standing on this rocky terrain here with a lot of these flame effect parts jutting out of the sides here. So I think this is supposed to represent the same location where we fight Alatreon in Monster Hunter World Iceborne, if I'm not mistaken. It's like the area where Safi'jiiva lies, where we have a lot of these kind of flaming, molten environments here, which I do think looks really cool. There is a bit of a sheen on these rocks here to kind of make it look like there's a bit of like a lava or magma flow kind of coming down in between the rocks here, which is kind of cool. And then right at the back here, it's a lot drier, a lot more solid colors back here with the flames. So I do think that this is pretty cool. I think the only thing that they could have done to make this statue look a little bit better is if they kind of conveyed more of Alatreon's abilities throughout the base. Because right now all you really see is the fire, but it would have been cool if they were able to show off some lightning effects and maybe some dragon elemental effects, maybe some ice as well here. That would have been cool. All they really did was just some fire, but outside of that, I think that overall the statue does look really good here. So for a size comparison with Alatreon here, we can see that Alatreon is just about 2 cans tall. It's just a little bit underneath it, but for a more accurate measurement, Alatreon actually measures up to just a little over 11.5 inches tall. So it's just shy of a foot, and for its width, with its wingspan, Alatreon actually measures up to about 16 inches wide. And for the base is actually about 8 inches from front to back. So this is definitely a large statue, very consistent with the statues that they've been releasing recently. But the thing that I do like about this is that the circumference of the base is much smaller than Fatalis's. This statue, as a result of that, will definitely afford you a little bit more flexibility when displaying this in your display area, because Fatalis definitely felt a little bit too large with how long its tail was at some points. But I feel like this is definitely just the right scale for Alatreon here, being able to convey the largeness of Black Dragon, but not being too large. So if I actually compare this with the older creators model, Velkhana, here, you can just see, with the size comparison here, Velkhana looks absolutely puny when compared to Alatreon here, and you can just see that Alatreon is definitely going to be a very large addition to the collection here, for sure. So I just wanted to talk about the pose of Alatreon here. I do like the pose. I think it's very simplistic, but it's also very effective, because no matter what angle you position Alatreon in, he's going to look great. So from a side profile here, you can see that Alatreon looks great here. I personally think that this is probably the best way to position Alatreon, because you get a very nice angle, a very nice picture, rather, of the wings here, with all of those color transitions looking really good. But you also see the majority of his body with those defined blacks, as well as those unique contrasting colors around the neck. You can see the face quite well, and you also get those very well-defined sky piercers as they stick straight up into the sky right there, looking really good. But then when you also look down to the base of the statue, I do like how these flames have a bit of a flow to them. You can kind of see how they're kind of moving from left to right, and that's something that I really do appreciate with some of these well thought out poses, is when they have like a very natural flow that sort of conveys a bit of movement. And I feel that this Alatreon pose does that quite well. Again, with the flames kind of flowing in this direction like this, and then Alatreon's body, as well as some of his physical characteristics, where a lot of things are either moving from left to right from this angle, or just kind of pointing straight up, like with these spikes here going straight up along with the sky piercers, and his body is kind of moving in this direction along with the flames. Even with the rocks, you can kind of see that the rocks kind of progressively go up like this, so it has a very nice flow on the side profile as well here. If we take a look front on with Alatreon's going to look great from the front, because of course you get to see both of the wings in all their magnificence. You get to see the tail actually from the front end as well here. You can make out these glossy rocks with a lot more of these flames here. And then of course, You can see both of these sky piercers looking very good as they jut out to the sky as well here. From the front-on angle, you might want to have Alatreon a little bit more elevated since the wings are pointed downwards, kind of similar to Shigaru Magala, but it does look great from the front, of course. And then, of course, from this angle, it's basically going to be the same as the other side, but you do see the tail this time around, and I do like how the tail is posed, where it's kind of coiled upward like this, and it goes straight up to that point. And again, we have that flow again, where we have the flames kind of moving from right to left this time, and then with the tail, you can kind of see how the tail kind of flows this way, along with all of the other spikes on the body. All of the spikes jut upwards, so you can see how the tail spike goes up. We have these spikes on the chest, which also point up. All the spikes on the wing point up, as well as those sky piercers. So there is that natural flow that's very consistent on this side of the body, and of course you see more with the tail on this side as well. Even on the back, even though I probably wouldn't pose it like this, it still does look pretty good with how the wings are outstretched. You see all of the wings there as well. You also see a large portion of the tail, which does look pretty cool. But yeah, overall, the pose is very effective here. And I also do like how the front profile, you can kind of see the flames encircling the body like this as well. So overall, I think this pose was a very good pose that they went with for Alatreon here. So that's pretty much everything that I wanted to cover in regards to this Alatreon statue. If I were to go into my final thoughts real quick, like I mentioned before, I think that this is an incredible recreation of Alatreon in statue form here. On many different accounts, I think that they nailed the design from the colors, the pose, the sculpt, even the base. Everything here is just done very well. Even with how they've conveyed the dark, menacing, and imposing feeling, or the aura that Alatreon just carries in spades, I think they did a very good job representing that here in this statue. I think that for anybody that was waiting for a large-scale Alatreon statue, I feel like you won't be disappointed with this. This is definitely a very good one to pick up, and yeah, it just looks great on all accounts here. There's not really too many things that I can say that I disliked about it. There's just very minor things and like certain ideas that I think could have made this statue look a little bit cooler. Like for instance, like there are some very minor parts around the body which I think could have looked a tiny bit better, but honestly, it's kind of hard to notice them anyway. But the biggest thing was what I mentioned earlier. We all know that Alatreon is a very chaotic elemental dragon. It has all of the elements, and it just would have been cool to see that represented here in some way on the base. All we really see here is just the flames around the base, and that's really it. But it would have really been cool if we saw some lightning effect parts, maybe even some ice somewhere, and some dragon energy surging around the body or something like that. Being able to convey all of that around Alatreon would have just amped the statue up to 11 and really made it perfect, because then it really would have symbolized the chaotic nature of Alatreon here, and I think that it just would have looked incredible and just very unique when stacked up with a lot of the other Monster Hunter statues. So that's really the only area that I think they could have improved on here. I think it definitely was a little bit of a missed opportunity to not show those elements, but outside of that, this statue is still very good. If anybody's looking to pick this up, it's still available as of this video. It's kind of expensive. Most retailers put this up a little over 200 USD. The site that I usually get my Monster Hunter figures has this a little bit cheaper. This is around $187 USD, which is still pretty pricey for a statue, but I mean, it's better than the alternatives out there. So I'll post a link of the site that I got this from if anybody's interested in picking this up. But I definitely do think that if you're willing to drop that much money on an Alatreon statue, especially one of this scale, I don't think that you'll be disappointed, especially if you're a fan of Alatreon. This is a very good statue. Like I've mentioned multiple times, you won't be disappointed. But yeah, outside of that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you guys found it informative. There's definitely going to be a lot more Monster Hunter videos coming in the future, so I hope you guys stay tuned for all of that. But until then, I hope you guys have a good day or good night, depending on where you are, and I will see you all later.